Manuel, thank you so much for being on the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's been some time since we last connected over the Las Vegas video we did together. That was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. And I'm sure we're gonna get into it. Before we get into it, why don't you tell everybody here just a little bit about you, what you do, just for a little bit of context, and then we'll have ourselves a good conversation.
Oh yeah, most definitely. So hey everyone, welcome to Anthony Sabatino Show. I'm glad to be here. I'm a commercial director, so I direct a lot of commercials for a lot of recognizable brands. Like some of these would be Mercedes-Benz, the Miami Heat most recently. And I actually started out as a content creator, and that's how I met Anthony.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Thank you.
So yeah, so talk us through a little bit about what commercial directing is like, maybe as compared to something doing more like content creation for someone like me or a smaller brand, something like Instagram. Talk us through some of the different, something that's different in the higher level of commercial directing.
Right. So in terms of content creation, it usually involves just one person who does, like shoot the content and edit it, and then he does everything basically. He's like a videographer, a photographer. In terms of directing, like the best way to put it would be when you go and watch a movie, like there's not just one person making the movie, there's like 12,000 people for the bigger movies. They want in a sense like Hollywood level of quality. So you get bigger crews, like you basically get a movie crew that's scaled down for a commercial. And in terms of commercial directing, you write the concept, you execute it on set, you tell everyone what to do, and you make sure everyone stays on the same page, both the brand and your team. So in terms of commercial directing, you have a whole team under you. Like you have producers, editors, cinematographers, colorists, sound designers, script writers, and your actors, as well as settings like studios and all of that. So commercial directing is basically content production, but on the film production side.
That's so cool. So like, where do you kind of sit in that whole scheme? Are you kind of at the top there, kind of directing everything at the head level? Yeah.
Yeah. So like in the same sense in a movie, when you go watch Star Wars, like director is George Lucas back in the day. So it's like a hierarchy system. So they're in charge of everything from the creative to executing the final product and keeping everyone happy.
That's cool. So what have you found? Because obviously, like you just mentioned before, you're working with some, pretty notable brands. Has there been any, things that you've found working with them that if you are a smaller content creator, right, that you might be able to look at your experiences working with Mercedes-Benz, Miami Heat, people like that, and someone like when we first worked together can take from that and be like, maybe I should start gearing my content more towards that realm, because brands of that caliber are doing it that way. Anything that you found like that?
Yeah, in a sense, because so the thing is, like the way the industry works, like bigger brands like that, they won't just go on Instagram and hit up a videographer or a content creator. They would go to agencies, and agencies are connected to production companies, and production companies have commercial directors who they will pitch to the agency first, and then to the brand. The agency will say, oh, I think this production company with XYZ director would be a good fit for this brand because XYZ, here's their portfolio, here's their experience, here's all the prior brands they've collaborated with in the past. So in terms of content creation, like there's like a huge fine line between commercial directing and content creation, whereas smaller brands who are solely focused on social media would do collaborations with content creators like videographers, whereas bigger global brands with bigger budgets would go with agencies, and the agencies would go the traditional way of hiring a director.
That makes sense. Is that something you notice too? Because that's something I always think of when I think of, the bigger production setups, right? It's always a bigger budget involved, right? Like, have you found, like, in your experience, actually, like working with the bigger budgets as well as smaller budget scenarios, right? Like, where's your head at in terms of like, do you kind of have like a deep breath? You're like, okay, we have a little bit more to work with here, right? We can make something a much better product out of this. Or is it more like you're, kind of tight when you're working with a smaller budget?
So the thing is, like smaller budgets, it ranges around from 300 to a couple thousand that you go up to, like you search for a videographer online and you offer that person that amount. In terms of like the bigger productions, there's a lot of more creative leeway since you're working with top-notch equipment, top-notch studios, top-notch crews who have shot movies, who've shot high-end commercials. So like there's a lot of flexibility in that. But I would say before you get into commercial, like this is for the creators out there who want to get into directing. The most important thing is when you start on a smaller scale, like it doesn't really matter what kind of equipment you have. It's all about how you use what you have. Like I started out shooting on my iPhone. Like freshman year of college, I was shooting iPhone dance videos for fun. And then that caught on social media. And then I started collaborating with influencers, my friends who had like personal brands and all that stuff. And then from there, I strategically placed myself, like I built up my portfolio, got connected with producers and production companies, and like sooner than later, I found myself collaborating with all these big brands, and it's been amazing so far.
That, yeah, I mean, it definitely has. And so I think everybody can kind of relate to some version, right, of that come up story of really, in your scenario, taking videos with your iPhone, right, posting it. I think a lot of people can kind of relate to that at some level and whatever that means to them, right? Like, so when you were networking, right, and collaborating with some different producers and people that kind of got your foot in the door, what was that kind of like? Take us through that a little bit. Were you in a place where you were just DMing people back and forth, like really like dirt road type stuff, or did you have some connections prior? Like, how did that look like?
Oh, so in the film industry, you just don't DM people. Like you don't search up someone's account and DMs them because it just gives out a sense of like, like extreme unprofessionalism. Like it's just like some kid hitting up Nike or Adidas, like saying, "Hey, can I direct a commercial for you?" Like the way the industry does it is there are networking events in Hollywood, like parties and stuff, like sponsored by a lot of brands where a lot of filmmakers connect, and usually that's where all the networking takes place. Like I've been to a lot, and I always bring my phone with me with my portfolio. And if I run into a producer, like there's a lot of like big producers out there, very well known in the industry. Like there are producers like solely focused on Marvel commercials, like for Disney Channel, commercials for like beverages, commercials for cars, commercials for sports, like Miami Heat. And you have to find these producers in these networking events, which are usually by invite only. And once you network with them, you show them your work and you become friends. And they start asking you and pitching you to like agencies and production companies who are directly connected to these brands. So like the main difference is in the social media world, brands can get connected to videographers directly because you can DM them, "Hey, send me a product, I'll make a video." But in the film industry, it's on a bigger scale where people follow like the traditional method of getting connected to producers first, and then getting introduced to agencies, and then getting to know the proper people in the agencies who know the people in brands, like CMOs, CEOs, CFOs, and brands.
That makes sense. So it's more of an in-person ordeal, right? Like you want to make sure that you're in the right place at the right time, you're in the right rooms, you're talking to the right people, especially like you said, at that scale, it makes way more of a difference than if you're just starting out, right? It's not really that, organic process, just DMing somebody, right? Which is funny, right? Because that's kind of how we got connected, right? I just basically DM'd you and we kind of made a video, which
exactly connected.
Yeah. So I think it's even funny. So for a lot of people who are listening now, the way we kind of got connected was, I mean, you're in LA, right? I'm in New York. So basically I was going out to Vegas for a business trip, and I really, really wanted to have it documented. And so I had, DM'd you to basically like help me out with that, because I knew how high quality you were and how everything got done really well with you. So I was like, let's basically meet up in Vegas if you were available. And basically you drove in from LA and I flew out to Vegas, and we kind of just got it done. So I just thought it was really funny to bring that context into the story, because it really does make a lot of people, understand the lengths that some people will go for good work, and also, how great and how, synergistically something can come together and really make something beautiful out of it. Because I'm sure that's even at scale, right? Like with people that you're meeting in person who live in LA that you're doing some great work for. If you just look at our situation, it's kind of like that at scale in person, all right?
Yes. Yeah, I would say for content creators, like because I know a lot of content creators, like amazing content creators, like super talented on the social media space. They're not necessarily interested in directing, like like making a visuals and commercials on a bigger scale, and like that's amazing, because like they prefer like the method of going on Instagram and then reaching out to people, like DMing people, like going to great lengths to like collaborate and all that stuff. But my advice is, if a content creator would want to go into like the traditional filmmaking field, then like you said in like the prior questions and all that stuff, like connecting on a deeper level, like going to these events, reaching out to producers, showing them your ready-made portfolio.
Speaking of that, so obviously you've made a lot of content for platforms like Instagram, even TikTok, and like just short, maybe even minute and below video type as well on the other end of the extreme, like you're doing commercials, right? So it's like you got this great balance. Anything that you would give, because I know we've even talked about some advice that you would give to, you know, some content creators out there. Has there been anything on the aesthetic part of things, like design wise, how things you make look, anything that you found that really works specifically coming from, you know, the videographer or the director standpoint that people that can maybe emulate on the content creator side?
Yeah, so like when I was a content creator, when I was a videographer, I had this very specific style of running and gunning. Like I was really good at getting shots on the go. Like in our Vegas trip, we barely had any preparation. We just had a basic idea of how things were going to go.
Yeah.
And like I think one of the biggest takeaways I could take from being a videographer back in the day was, you know, like being like on fire the whole time. Like when an opportunity comes, like a shot comes, like you have that instinct, like that, oh, this is gonna look good in camera, and then you quickly think, like which angle is going to look best to get this shot that's about to pass by in like 10 seconds if I don't turn on the camera and take it. So like, and then I got into directing. So I feel like it's a really huge advantage learning that side of videography, because in directing, time costs money. If you're if you don't wrap a shoot by like, let's say 10 p.m., that's gonna cost like your producers around $10,000, because you're paying extra for locations, you're paying extra for crew, which is like 50 people, you're paying extra for food because people have to be fed. So I feel like I really learned a lot from being a videographer, like managing time quickly, getting all the shots I need. So when it comes to bigger sets, I'm really proud to say that on my commercial shoots, I finish always 2 hours earlier, and that makes everyone happy. Like my producers save around $20,000. The brand saves a lot more money when they collaborate with me, because like they'll always remember me as that, like, oh, it's that young kid who's a director who saves us a bunch of the budget and provides like the same quality of work that other directors would take like 10 more hours to finish.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that's even like an underestimated facet of, you know, I guess just film work in general, right? Is how much every dollar counts in the sense of time, right? So like if it gets to that scale, right, where a couple hours could cost you 20, 30, 45, you know, $50,000, like that's a really big deal. So then you look at people who are like consuming commercials that you might be making, or people of your caliber that could be making, or even just someone like you making stuff for platforms like Instagram, and us viewing it and consuming that and trying to think of what even just went into that is can be really, you know, daunting. It can really like make us wonder. And I think that's the beauty of it, right? Like us as the consumer trying to figure out what
how something was made. Like how something was made. Like when I made the Miami Heat commercial, we shot that in around 48 hours. So from getting to the studio, we shot for around 8 hours, I would say. And then leaving the studio and then editing throughout the night. Like we delivered the whole commercial like even less 48 hours. Like so like that was the fastest turnaround time I've ever worked on, with the whole crew, you know, a whole lighting crew, a whole visual effects crew, like a lot of people running around the place. And like that was like the fastest commercial I've ever pulled off in 48 hours. And then we sent it into Miami headquarters, and then it was up in the big screens, which was an amazing feeling.
Yeah, I mean, you were at the game, right?
Oh no, I wasn't at the game. It was one of my friends who was at the game and who recorded the commercial for me, which was showing on the big screen. I was in LA the whole time. We shot the commercial here in LA, and we used like, you know, LA studios. So yeah, we shot the whole thing here and then shot in Miami.
That's very cool. Did you get to work with anybody on, you know, the team? Like, did anybody fly out to LA to like shoot the video?
Oh, like the Miami Heat team?
Yeah.
No, like they outsourced everything to my team.
Gotcha.
It's like the film production company I'm part of, Badass Kid. So like everyone there has worked with a lot of big brands in the past. So like we have all these resources. So a lot of big brands trust us. Like once they send us, you know, contracts to collaborate, they know that we will get stuff done, even though none of their representatives are on set watching the shoot.
Gotcha. So how did that get started, Badass Kid? Like, where did that kind of stem from?
It stemmed from, so like way back, I'm trying to like rewind and remember everything. It's been a crazy year since COVID. So like I feel like everything's a blur. So I'm trying to like rewind a bit.
Yeah.
So when I was like a videographer, like freshman year of college, I reached out to Ali San, who's a very prominent, renowned like music video director and commercial director in Hollywood. He won Kansas like short film best director back in 2000. He was in college, which was around like 12 years ago. So he's a very prominent director in the field. So I reached out to him on Instagram asking if I could be his apprentice. Like basically I was asking him to mentor me in exchange for me like helping him out on shoots, like being his assistant for free. And then like nothing really happened for a year. And then the second year I approached him on Instagram as well. Like that was the time when I had a bigger portfolio. Like I started, collaborating with the Screen Actors Guild Award. So I sent that to him and he was like, "Oh, this is super cool." And we sat down, had coffee, and he saw like the potential I had. And then from there, we started collaborating, co-directing shoots together. Um, we made a lot of music videos in a couple months. I think we churned out around six music videos per month for like very recognizable artists in the space. And then from there, we started, since we were collaborating so much, he invited me to join his film production company, which is Badass Kid. So in the present day, Badass Kid is me and Ellie. So we're running the whole thing. It's been great because we both have like separate networks, so we're combining everything in like our resources, our assets, and all like the film crews we've worked with in the past. So that's what Badass Kid right now. It's for the kids who dream, the kids who are not afraid of anything.
That's really cool. And what I think is even the most important part of that entire story was when you said, you were basically helping him and, just helping him for free, but nothing happened for a year. And you think about the amount of people that would give up so fast, right? Like, and it's a shame to see because you can look at where you are now and all that happened as a result of you sticking it out, for a year with really not much coming back and not really reaping any of the benefits out of it. So I think that's really important for everybody, at least here that's listening / watching, is, Immanuel literally went through a year of doing things for free and helping this person because he saw some vision in it. And it eventually kind of paid back in a different way that you maybe didn't expect in the beginning, but it ended up working out really well for you, right?
Yeah. So like it's a great feeling to have and to look back in time and realize that he was my mentor for directing, which helped me speed through the process because I was watching my mentor on set, like directing this huge cameras that would cost more than a typical house in LA. Like it was a fast track into the directing world, and I learned quickly. I worked hard, and in a few months, I was able to direct on the pretty much the same level as other directors twice my age. So at that point, my mentor told me that he said that it's time for him to basically let me go and have me do my own thing, direct my own projects because he already has taught me everything he knew about directing. So at that point, we just started, like co-directing and collaborating together, and then Badass Kid was formed.
That's so cool. That's so cool, dude. I'm happy to hear that everything's going so well. And like your come up story is so relatable. And just the people listening now, I know for a fact can feel that in their own way, to some extent. I think being able to listen to things like this, because I know for me, for sure, that helped, right? Listening to other people talk about their come up stories and how that related to me and what I felt I kind of shared in that sense. I do think it's really important for us to just hear that. I think that matters. So listen, man, this was amazing. And I think people got so much value out of it. I would love for people to have the opportunity to reach out to you and see, even if they can just pick your brain a little bit, even more so, any networking opportunities that come from this is more than valuable. So where can people reach you?
Yeah, my doors are always open. So if anyone just wants to say hi, pop into the chat. I will always look at my DMs. I'm still that same kid from 2 years ago who's always on Instagram like 8 hours a day, like looking for opportunities, like trying to talk to people. So like the way I would put it is, even though I'm collaborating with all these big brands currently, like I'm always open whenever a smaller brand reaches out, or a person who has a goal, who has a dream for his business or his brand that reaches out to me for help on figuring out a concept, or like to like execute to push his brand forward in the field, in the networking arena. Like I'm always open to that. So it doesn't matter to me if you're Marvel, or you're Mercedes-Benz, or you're Miami Heat, or if you're some kid who has dreams, you just want to pick up a camera and film, or if your brand is just starting out, I'm always open. The door is always open for any conversation. So thank you so much for listening.
Yeah. What's your Instagram handle?
Instagram handle is at Immanuel Portus. So it's basically my full name. You can type it in to Google. It always shows up because I'm the only one who has a username like that.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll make sure we'll put it in the description or something. We'll make sure it's linked. Well, Immanuel, listen, thank you so much for hopping on the show today and having a great conversation with me.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Like it's been a pleasure. It's been a great honor to be here. And I know that you're starting out this show for people to connect with, people who are, with coming up stories and people who can inspire others. So I'm really, really honored that you invited me to this show.
Took a shot in the dark to make my own lane. I think that I'm better going my own way, so I didn't. Now I'm on my own, yeah, I'm on my way. Keep my head up till I find my place, yeah, I'm on my